All right, Dr. Townsel, thanks so much for joining me today on the podcast. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Yes, definitely. I know you're committed to helping fellow leaders out there and future leaders out there. So I appreciate that. And, we were talking a little bit about culture. So I'd love to just start there and get your thoughts on how do you think about culture, especially as a school superintendent?
It's interesting that you say that. One philosophy that I've always lived by as an educational leader is as climate and culture goes, so goes curriculum and instruction. I used to always tell my staff, listen, you can be Albert Einstein. If young people are, not following the expectations of the classroom, then, it's going to be hard to teach them anything. So developing not only high expectations and enforcing them and communicating it often, that's when young people organically rise to the occasion and you see an increase of academic achievement, a reduction in disciplinary issues over time, and just an overall great learning environment.
Yeah, it's so much in what you just said that we could probably spend 2 hours on just in that first few sentences. You said expectations. How do you think about expectations? What does that mean for you?
Listen, expectations for me is really identifying goals, and then you put a game plan in place to get the goal. One thing that's kind of went viral here in my community is something I created called set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, then raise the bar. Repeat, set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, raise the bar. That philosophy fits in any aspect of your life. Even if you're looking to lose weight, you set the goal, 265. Okay, you meet that goal, then you increase that goal. You just always, it's a nonstop or a constant flux of better, getting better at every opportunity that you have. That's the first step. Set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, then raise the bar. And then you go through that challenge once again. And I'm sure if you look back over time, you see that you're a lot further off or a lot closer to your goal than you could possibly imagine.
And how has that been true for your own leadership journey? I would imagine that if you're like me anyway, I was a little surprised to find myself as a school superintendent at a pretty young age. But I was working hard. I was doing everything I could. I was going back to school. I was learning from mentors and studying what other leaders did. How is that whole idea of setting the bar, meeting the bar, raising the bar applied in your own leadership journey?
Right. Well, it's a little different for me. I wanted to be a superintendent. So I went into my first teaching opportunity with the end in mind, and the end at the career ladder to me was superintendency. So I set that as the bar, or excuse me, I set the bar at every level. So not only was I a teacher in the classroom, I also became an athletic director. Not only was an athletic director, I was a coach, I was a dean of student. I left to become from being a dean of students to being a central office worker supporting deans of students. Left from being a central office worker to an assistant principal of a high school. Set the bar to become a principal. Set the bar to become an assistant superintendent. Set the bar to become a superintendent. So literally every aspect of my life going towards that executive leadership or school district superintendency was me setting that as a goal from the get-go and doing everything I could in between time that would get me closer to that goal. So not only did I get the experience, but I also obtained a bachelor's degree in secondary education, obtained a master's degree of education administration and policy, obtained a doctoral degree in educational leadership and policy studies, obtained a certification from Harvard University in school turnaround leadership, obtaining all three of my degrees, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate from the Howard University School of Education, becoming nationally certified through the American Association of School Administrators, the AASA Urban Superintendents Academy. Everything you have to ask yourself is what you're doing right now getting you closer to your goal. For me, yes, that was my goal to be a superintendent. So got the degrees, got the certifications, got all of the credentials that's on that job description that say you should have to be qualified to compete for the opportunity. And I became a district superintendent at 35 years old. My mind, the bar I had in my head was, this as soon as possible. And that was as soon as possible for me. I obtained my doctoral degree in 2015. So about 6 years ago is when I got my doctorate degree. And 6 years removed, I'm at my goal of superintendency. So it's been an amazing journey, man, a very intentional journey. So what I would tell any young leader coming up in the industry of education or whatever industry it is that you're in, the goal is to see what position you want to hold in that field, look at all the requirements for that field, and go at it expeditiously, go at it fearlessly. Now, let's be clear, leadership is not for the faint of heart. The leadership is difficult, it's hard work, and it's heart work. So you prepare your mind, prepare your body, prepare your soul, and you be courageous and you walk into the opportunity and do the best that you can possibly do. And then, that's leadership to me.
How did you know at such a young age you wanted to be a superintendent?
Oh, great question. So, I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and then going through being a graduate of Detroit public schools, when I earned the opportunity, which was an athletic scholarship to Howard University in Washington, D.C. Once I decided to go in the field of education, my goal was to become like the educators that I had, to ensure that no matter what my circumstances were, what my environment was, I was in the best opportunity to be successful in life. So it's my mission to give back to communities that I grew up in and be that educator for that educator that was for me. So I'm trying to emulate the educators that I had, to ensure that I was successful in not only my academic life, but also my athletic life and now my professional life. So that's my mission. My mission is to serve and to give back and to create opportunity and change people's trajectories for the better in education or through education.
And why though? Where did that come from? My guess is that came from a deeper level.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. When you think of young Black men growing up in urban environments, do you think that, oh, they're going to get a doctorate degree in education, or this person might be the next neurosurgeon? That's not the stereotype. The stereotype is not that you go off to get terminal degrees. So the goal is to debunk the stereotype. I love letting folks know that I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, grew up on the west side, product of Detroit public schools, and I'm at the top of my game, winning, being a leader. So it's to inspire.
Now, this is not an appropriate podcast question, but I'm just fascinated. Where'd you go to high school?
Cass Technical High School.
Oh yeah, okay. Excellent. I went to U of D, so I had to ask.
Cool.
So as you think about that journey, you said it's hard. Leadership is not for the faint of heart, and you only know that by doing it. Because most people, at least for me, I looked at leadership, I was like, that looks easy. They don't have to do very much, but once you're in it, it's like, whoa, this is challenging. So when you face those challenges along the way, what advice would you give to folks when they run up against a significant roadblock?
You know what? It's to the advice I would give to any young people coming up against a roadblock that can potentially stop you from getting to your destination is to persevere and to search for the tool to overcome that obstacle. What I mean by that is, going through my academic career and ultimately becoming a superintendent, oh man, I faced many obstacles and setbacks. But what I did was I found ways to get a step up. I go around those obstacles by finding critical friends or different networks. So once I became, a member of the first cohort of the Urban Superintendents Academy, I was an assistant principal, but I was sitting at think tanks and in classrooms with sitting superintendents, sitting assistant superintendents, former superintendents, national superintendent of the year candidates, and just learning and soaking up all of that game or all of that information. And that just gave me the confidence I need to say, hey, look, they've been through a lot of things. So what I'm facing is small compared to what they faced. And it gave me a different level of courage to face what I was facing in a different way. And this is becoming strategic and ensuring that it won't stop me from my ultimate destination. And that ultimate destination is having the greatest impact on students or the field of education. And I've, stayed in those communities and networks. If you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So I became friends with executives. I became friends with superintendents. And it's, organically and subconsciously put that leadership attribute within me. And when I became a contender for opportunities to lead districts, I stood out, and shined and became the number one pick. And here I am leading, over a year under my belt, just got a year added to my contract, and I'm still facing challenges, but I'm winning. You watch championship games, whether football, basketball, baseball, whatever your sport, no one just give the winning team a trophy. You got to fight for it. You have to, slam dunk. You have to shoot threes. You have to run touchdowns. You have to intercept passes. You have to hit home runs. You have to, strike them out. All of those things under adversity. And then you win. And it's hard and it's difficult. You got a lot of sweat, probably broken bones, a lot of bruises, a lot of blood. Get back into the weight room, do it again.
Mm-hmm. Which I think most folks miss, frankly, in this sort of short attention span world. All we see is the championship game, right? And all kids want is that championship result, as opposed to the hundreds and hundreds of hours and days and weeks and months that they've committed to training and the grueling hard work that got them to the championship game. And I think I hear you saying over and over again that you got to keep working, you got to keep grinding away, you got to keep going for that next goal if you want to be successful. And I love what you said about, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, especially, maybe in this case for kids, for students out there.
Yeah, I mean, I had an opportunity to talk with a young person and they said, hey, I want to go to the NFL. I'm like, okay, number one, are you hanging out with college athletes? Are you hanging out with, high level high school athletes? Because if so, then you would see what they're doing every day to get there. Or if you're hanging around, people with the professional potential or know anyone that's been in the pro world, ask them what they've done to get there. You have to, I mean, the funny thing about success is that it doesn't have a date. Success, it never expires. The recipe to success never goes out of style. I mean, what we're eating, if you think of your favorite restaurant that's been your favorite forever, the recipe hasn't changed. You're still buying it. It's still a Fortune 500 company. It's the same thing when it comes to achieving goals. If you want to go to the NBA, you should probably be at camps where future NBA players go to. If you want to become a superintendent, you should probably be in those cohorts that superintendents are learning in. If you want to be a principal, you should probably be a part of your state principal association. So you can always understand and speak that language, so you don't look foreign and you don't feel like an imposter when you get into those circles and people ask your thoughts and your opinions. I've never met a professional athlete that did not play basketball prior to becoming a professional athlete or playing that sport prior to becoming professional. So if you want to be at the elite level, give me a second. If you want to be at any elite level in your career or in your personal life, you have to look at what the elites do within that field and replicate it, make it work for you, put your own sauce to it and see what the outcome is for you. I mean, I spent a lot of time mentoring and serving with a lot of up and coming educators because they see me and say, wow, how old are you? You're 36? You're a superintendent? What, how'd you do that? How'd you? And I tell them, most people don't do it, but you give it all away and those that it's for will do it. And I don't care if you impact one person.
Yeah. Well, I love that that we're getting more real here because you threw out Imposter, which is a big one. We just wrote an article on this actually about everywhere from Albert Einstein to Serena Williams, has faced this challenge of feeling like an imposter at one level. And I think the vast majority of the leaders that we've worked with across the country have admitted that as well. And the other 10% are probably lying to us. So for you personally, I'm just curious, how do you battle with any sort of internal monologue that you might have about being an imposter as a leader?
I think it's I'll never forget when I started my first game in college as a football player. I never forget going on the field as the starter and saying, wow, should I be starting? But then I think about all the days of practice. I think about all of the time in the weight room. I think about our spring season. I think about, the late night film sessions. And I say, but I'm prepared. So let me go out there and do what a starting athlete does, and that's compete. So you never know until you hit that goal. The first time I became a high school principal, I was like, oh man, I'm responsible for all this. Inside of my head, I'm like, wow, I'm responsible for this. And then I think about my experiences working at all of those levels, and say, well, at least I know what a teacher is to do. I know what an athletic director should do. I know what the expectations are of a business office, a special education department. And then you do what's best for kids. And also you do it in an ethical way. You do it in an equitable way, and you let the chips fall where they may. If you prepare yourself the best you can possibly prepare yourself, and then get the opportunity and work to your level of preparation, you might be successful. You have to play up to the competition. Don't ever play down to the competition. So any opportunity that I walk into, I look at as my next challenge, and I play to the challenge. I try to, again, set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, then raise the bar. I'm always looking to raise a bar. So I don't care what challenge I'm faced with. I'm looking to set a goal on it, beat that goal, and raise and go way beyond that goal, and then set a new goal, because it's always about getting that personal best record.
Well, there's so much to love in what you said, Dr. Townsel. I think, especially for preparation, that the ultimate antidote for that imposter syndrome is just knowing I've prepared. I've worked really hard to get here. I've done everything that I can to be prepared for this moment. And yes, I'm nervous, but that's not going to stop me from going forward. A lot of times I think folks confuse that. They think they need to go to work on being more confident. Well, you can't really, at least I haven't found you can go to work on being more confident. You can work really hard and get better at things, and you can face the fear and do it anyway, have the courage to do things. And when you do that, you look back and you say, wow, that worked. And that's what builds confidence, is being willing to kind of put yourself out there and face that fear and do it anyway. And I love how
I think a gem to build confidence. And I've once heard that you should work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work harder on yourself than you do it on your job, you're going to be more confident. If you have a goal to be fit, for example, and you do everything you can, you're eating the right food, you're on the diet, you're in the gym, the weight room, you're burning, you're running cardio, you're lifting weights, and you do it for 365 days, and you walk on the beach, you're like, listen, all those push-ups and pull-ups, I'm taking my shirt off and shit, because I'm better today than I was yesterday. It just gives you confidence because you put the work in. So that's the same thing walking into any career opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Get to work. I love it. So we're a little short on time just because we got a late start, but I'd love to hear, your recommendations for books, or maybe a leadership book, or maybe just any book in your life that's really had a profound impact on you.
You know what, man? I'm a big reader in general. And one thing about reading, I store the philosophy. I don't store the title. So it's difficult for me to give a name of a book. Well, I will say this. One of my favorite movies to watch is Beowulf 2007, the 3D version, because my takeaway from that is, everyone needs a hero. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to travel far and wide to look for that hero. And in the field of education, there's a critical shortage of teachers, and there's a critical shortage of administrators. There's a critical shortage of superintendents. But if you're prepared, I'm willing to go far and wide to find a community that needs support. So my advice is to, study Beowulf and see how he was able to conquer Grendel and become the king of the community. Now, a lesson you can learn is that there's a lot of different pitfalls you have to be aware of. So be cognizant and understand when there's something in front of you that's not good from you. Learn from your leaders, learn from the past, learn from others' experiences. That's the best way to be as effective as you possibly can, is by learning from others.
Love it. I love it. You just added to my homework. I'm going to go check out Beowulf. Usually I've read the books that our guests recommend, but not in this case. So I appreciate that. Well, Doctor, I appreciate the time again, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.